worship who created heaven and earth. Oh, I've come to worship who created heaven and earth. Hey, I've come to worship the creator of the whole universe. I've come to pray, I've come to sing, and I've come to dance. I've come to pray. I've come to pray. Emmanuel,
Hey, what's up, y'all? God bless you, man. I pray all is well on this evening, man. I pray everyone is doing well. Listen, man, I want to talk to you tonight because I tell you, man, I don't know about you, man, but if you are following the ways of the world and just seeing how life is being played out in front of us, I know sometimes it can be discouraging. But tonight we want to encourage you, man. We want to take you back old school. We want to do some things, man, that was done many, many centuries ago. And I believe that what was done then is still prevalent today. We got to be about doing the things that matter to God. And so tonight we want to encourage each and every one of you who are joining me. Listen, do me a favor, if you be so kind. Share this broadcast. Listen, as you come on tonight, share this broadcast. Tonight's subject, for those of you who are taking notes, is simply who's talking. It's a lot of people moving their mouths, but just because their mouths is moving doesn't mean they're saying anything. And so we just want to ask that question or pose that question tonight, who's talking? And it all come together and it all makes sense in just a short few moments. But again, greetings to each and every one of you who are logging on, man, and just we thank God for you, and we pray that you are enjoying this day, because this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall be glad and rejoice in it. And so we are always excited because this is a day of opportunity. We are winding down, of course, in this day. But I tell you, man, it's been a good journey, a good run, and I pray each and every one of you, like myself, have gotten something done, had some meetings that was productive, did some things, said some things, thought of some things, wrote down some things, really encouraged yourself. And so, man, I pray that you are just where God needs you to be. And with that light and with that word that God has placed in your heart, we want to make sure that we are talking, that we are sharing, that we are witnessing, that we are doing the things that matter so that we can help save a lost world, a dying world, and sometimes a lost family and a dying family. Man, as I look at the news, man, I am so sick and tired. You know, I cut on my computer, man, and all I see is somebody being carjacked. You know, somebody 16 years old driving sporadically, running from the police, crashing the vehicle. Man, it's just becoming more and more ridiculous, man, and it's sad. And so, man, you will have different schools of thought. People will argue and ask and debate in salons and barbershops and in hospital rooms and in stores, and people will talk about the situation, and they'll start to, you know, like, whose fault is it? Is it the child's fault? Is it the parents' fault? And so, man, you know, that's going to be probably a lifelong debate. But, man, here's what I will say, that if God has given anybody the ability to be a guardian or raise any children, then I'm gonna be honest with you, that child, that parent, the parents or their guardians are responsible for every action that these kids are doing. Of course, we can't be with them 24/7, but I'm a firm believer that you got to put something in them. If you put something in them, I promise you, especially the word of God, I promise you that we'll combat some of this stuff that's happening, because it's becoming, it almost make you feel like, when is it gonna stop? When is it gonna cease? It's just ridiculous. Young people going to school should be pursuing an education, learning how to read, learning how to write, learning how to count, learning how to, do things that will help position them to be a better human being. And man, I tell you, to sit back and watch them lose themselves the way they're losing themselves, it's just sad. It's a sad commentary. And so that's why tonight we decided to really just talk from the thought of who's talking. And we'll talk about this biblical character by the name of Joshua. Many of you know Joshua as the successor of Moses. Moses had done and took the people of Israel as far as he could go. And God had told him, because of his disobedience, that he would not enter into the promised land, but he raised up one by the name of Joshua. Joshua comes along and he takes the people of Israel and he takes them further than Moses took them. He took them into the promise so that they can, watch this, experience the promises of God. And I want to pick up in Joshua 24, I think, but I won't share the scripture with you now, but I'll kind of be in Joshua 24 because there's just some things, and I'm going to talk more about this on Sunday. I really am. As I continue to give it more thought, I'm going to talk more about it, but I kind of want to whet the appetite, kind of stir some wheels amongst us tonight and really get us in the habit or in the place, or even just posturing ourselves to really start thinking about each and every young person that's connected to us and how we can impact and influence their lives so that they don't become the next statistic. That's what's important to us, so that they don't become the next statistic. So now let me give you a little more background. Shortly before Joshua dies, he gives Israel a mighty word of counsel. I particularly thought about this word of counsel because I believe this world is in that place again of needing a word of knowledge. I'm pretty sure some of you would agree. When you look at the news and when you talk amongst peers, you find that it's the same thing, and it's scary. It's like, who's next? When I go to the grocery store, will somebody be in the parking lot waiting on me? When I go to get gas in my car, is somebody going to be there to try to rob me and take what I've worked hard for? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Everywhere you go, you have people who are just, wondering like, okay, what's next? Who's talking? So here's what Joshua told the people of Israel. He says, if it seems evil, and this is Joshua 24:15, if it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I think that scripture right there says a whole lot. It really speaks, man, to the substance that we need to hear today, and that we need to really hone in on it, take it to heart, and do exactly what the scripture has said. This word was given to the children of Israel. I mean, God had did mighty works in their life. God had blessed them beyond measure. He had delivered them from the hand of Pharaoh. He had fed them in the wilderness. God had did so many incredible things in their life. They seen the miracles of God. They seen the power of God. They seen the delivering hand of God. They seen God in his might. They seen God in his power. They seen God in his spirit. And here it is, Joshua now is late in age. He's done the things that God had told him to do. And now he says what? If it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord. Choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye now dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Who is Joshua talking to in this 24th chapter? He's talking, catch this, to the elders, the judges, and the leaders of the nation. Let me say that again. He's talking to the elders, the judges, and the leaders of the nation. Now, I want to say this because many times in the church, we think of elders, we think about, the spiritual leadership that people have been elevated to. But then you'll realize, though, that in villages or in nations, there were people who were senior people, who were elder statesmen, people who had wisdom, and they were called upon as the leaders of the group or the leaders of the tribe or the leaders at that time that will help differentiate when people was having trouble with one another. They would come, they would hear the matters. So when we talk about elders, sometimes it's sort of like calling the elders, the senior people, the people who have experienced life, the people who have went through some things, the people who have seen God move. You bring them, you bring the judges. The judges come and they what? They represent the law. Then he says, watch this, he says, also bring the leaders of the nation. And we see this in 24:1. He says in 24:1, it's not on the screens, write it down. It's your homework tonight. You're going to want to chase this even further. And Joshua gathered all the tribes of Israel to Shechem and called for the elders of Israel, for their heads and for the judges and for their officers. And they presented themselves before God. He did what? He says, watch this. He called for the leaders, the elders, and the judges to do what? Present themselves before God. What choices is Joshua giving the Israelites in this chapter? So when we look at chapter 24, what is Joshua saying to this group of people? He gives them three choices. He says you can, number one, serve the Lord. Number two, you can serve the false gods that your forefathers had served from the other side of the Euphrates River and in Egypt. And number three, you can serve the false gods that were popular in the land that they were now living in. Now, pause right there and ask yourself, how different is that now? That we have people among us in today's time, watch this, who are serving gods according to the popularity of what's happening now. You have people who have forsaken the God that have met their very needs, who have come into their homes and supplied all their needs according to their riches and glory, who have healed their bodies, and all of these things. That the God that delivered Israel is the same God that has delivered and healed us and brought us a mighty long way. Watch this. Now he tells them you can serve the gods in the land in which you dwell in, which is so important because many of us, we get so caught up based on what we see. That's why the Bible teaches us that we should do what? Walk not by sight, but what? By faith. And it's so easy, watch this, after seeing God do what only God could do to you, your family, your entire household, it is so easy for us to get caught up to now start serving some other gods. And we don't even realize it's a subtle thing. You could be serving some other God and don't even realize you serving them. Don't even realize you paying homage to him. Don't even realize you bowing to him. Don't even realize you answering to him. You don't even realize that's how subtle it is. But all you know is that when that thing calls you, you go. When that thing tells you to sit, you sit. When that thing tells you to do something, you do it. You don't even realize it. We justify it. We kind of tell ourselves, well, everybody's doing it, so it must be okay. No, beloved. You have to know from whence you come from, and you have to know to whom you belong. It's very important. You don't do just to be doing. You do because it has to matter. And number one, it has to matter to God. And number two, it has to matter to you, your character, your integrity, and it has to make sense. So now Joshua 24:15 highlights what? Critical life changing observations. So when we look at that verse, let me read it to you again. If it seems evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But as for me and my house, you're going to keep hearing that tonight, because who's responsible? Who's responsible? Watch this. For setting the tone in your home. Who's responsible? The government is not responsible. The world is not responsible. The only person that's responsible, watch this, for setting the tone in your home is the guardian, is the parent of that home. Just like the parent in my home growing up, let it be known who was in charge. Let it be known how I was being fed. Let it be known how I was putting clothes on my back. Let it be known where the money was coming from that they was giving me. Let it be known. And so at the end of the day, it's that parent's job to establish the foundation on which every person that's in that home, that's growing up in that home, being reared in that home, will follow. It's very important. If we set no rules, see, here's the thing with not being able, because here's another premise. Like the situation that just happened on the freeway where the kid, I think 16-year-old, took a car. Now watch this. Now, thank God he went to the house. He didn't, damage himself, I guess, or die or anything like that. But here's where I'm going with that. Who do you think, watch this, going to be crying the loudest if something happened? It's going to be that parent. It's going to be that parent that's going to be crying. Who you think going to have to stomach the hurt? Going to have to stomach the, excuse me, the pains and the hurts and all of that. It's going to be that parent. So now, if I have to be the one to stomach it, then that means that I'm going to have to be the one to tell somebody up in here how it's going to have to be done. And what did Joshua do? Joshua called the judges, he called the leaders, he called the elders. He presented them before God and he says, here's what we need to do. You need to figure out what God you're going to serve. You need to figure out what you're going to do. Because here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that somehow we become too satisfied. I'm seeing that somehow we're forgetting how we made it over, how we came through the Red Sea, how we was fed out there in the wilderness. Somehow I'm starting to see that people now is kind of becoming maybe as if they really don't need God anymore. So he brings them all together and he says, hey, here's what you need to do, beloved. You need to figure out what God you're going to serve, because for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. See, we're not serving the Amorites God. We're not serving the God that's dwelling in this land. We're not serving the God of our past. We're going to serve the Lord. There is no in between. There is no, no, we're in a different time. No. God is an on-time God. Just like he was the same God yesterday, he's the same God today, and he'll be the same God tomorrow. So we can't say because we in different times that we need to reduce the level of sin. Like we need to give a pass for wrong behaviors and bad actions. No, there still has to be a level of accountability. I don't want to see another child doing something that they shouldn't be doing, because that child, if you got the energy and the brains to learn how to steal a car, then that means you are more brilliant and intelligent than you realize. That if you have the brains and the intelligence to steal a car, if you got the heart to carjack somebody, if you got the heart to put a gun in your hand and rob somebody, see, that means then, watch this, you got courage, you got strength, you just dancing with the wrong partner. So what you need, watch this, is a word. And my question again is, who's talking? Who's talking? Who's talking? People say, oh man, people don't want to hear that. They all talked out. No. Well, what would you rather do? Talk yourself out or watch what you're watching? We have to continue to talk. Because here's what you have to realize with the words that you say, if they are words of substance. If they are words of substance, then that means they are seeds. And what I know about seeds is that when they're planted, they'll grow. And so you have to realize that whatever you are saying, you may not be the person that see that harvest come out of that young person's life. But what you will see, watch this, is the seed that you've planted. Somebody else will come along and water it. But guess what? Ultimately, it will be God that gives it the increase. But somebody just got to plant the seed. If you say nothing, if you look the other way, you are just as guilty as the person who is out here taking from somebody, robbing from somebody, and doing all those things. It's time for us as an adult and as a people to raise up and say enough is enough. All of us need to be talking. We've gotten to the place to where it's easy for them to say it ain't my business. It's not your business until it knocks at your door. When it knocks at your door, then it becomes your business, and then you want everybody's help. So my thing is that let's prevent it from happening by doing at least what we know we need to do. And I'm pretty sure all of you are on board with me on this, because gosh, I'm telling you, I can't stomach it. I'm tired of turning on the news. Every time I open up my laptop, here it is. Channel 19 is on my screen, talking about a carjacking, talking about a robbing, talking about a shooting. Man, I'm sick and tired of hearing this. And the thing about it is, it's young. 16, 14, 13, 12. Finding bodies. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. So who's talking? Who's talking? Joshua says it's time to call the people together. Call the judges. Call the leaders. Call the elders. And let's have dialogue. And let's put the pressure on the ones, watch this, who sees them the most. And that's the people who are in those homes. That's who got to say something. I'm tired of, man, kids coming acting like they running the house. Kids acting like they running the house. Kids acting like they telling you to sit down and shut up. No. How are we scared of our kids? How are we scared of our kids? How are we scared to hurt their feelings? How are we scared to tell them the truth? How are we scared? How is it that seems like, here's what I wrote down. I wrote this earlier. If we choose not the right responsibility, then we've accepted the wrong responsibility. The moment we neglect the right thing to do, then that means we've accepted the wrong thing to do. So we got to do what we got to do. Come on now, let's make it do what it do. Because this drives me to my next point. The first point we see is excuses. Excuses. If it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord. Now, when we think about that, it seems, watch this, evil unto you to serve the Lord. That's powerful, because look at here. If it seems evil for you to serve the Lord, here's what he's saying. In every generation, there will always be a perverted group choosing evil over good, as it was for Israel. That group will think it is a waste to worship, to study the Bible, to pray, and to live a virtuous life. And the way the Bible is treated in many of our institutions of education, why should we believe any different about the people of Israel? Because look at this. It's like when you look at this picture of Joshua calling the heads of these families and these nations and these tribes and communities together, and for him to look out and see and know all that God has done. They were living in the land of milk and honey. Because of who? God. God gave them the ability and the strength to drive out the people that was in the land that they were now occupying. Who did that? God. God blessed them. He told them what he was going to do, and he did it through them. This is what God did. This is why this amazes me, how easy it is to give God excuses. No, we can't give God excuses. Why? Because we're avoiding confrontation. Don't nobody want to confrontate. And let me tell you, if you can't stand to have confrontation now, then you definitely ain't going to confront the devil when he push up on you. You definitely going to give in to the sin. You definitely going to say, okay. Because here's the thing. Until you get to the place of saying no is no, then guess what? You'll say yes for anything. And so we got to get to the place, watch this, that we understand. Let me labor this point a little bit too about, how the institutions of education and how, we live in a world now where they want to bring, well, let me just read what I wrote. Leaders in education do not seem to think it is evil to teach and introduce. Watch now. I got to say this now. Y'all follow me. Leaders in education do not seem to think it is evil to teach and introduce drag queen story time and other vile lifestyles, but they will not permit the Bible in the classroom. Now watch this. They frown on you having spirituality in school. They frown on you having prayer in school. They frown on you bringing the Bible to school. But yet they inundate you, watch this, with these other false gods. They inundate you with the false gods of the land. They inundate you and our children's minds with these drag queen story times. Watch this, not to people who are above age or the age to be able to say yeah and nay, but they doing it with 4, 5, and 6-year-old kids. It's like, at 18, somebody can make their own decision. At 18, yeah, you show up to a college and you want to do a drag. Notice where they doing. You notice they ain't going to no university doing that because they know that they are dealing with young adults who will say, man, we ain't on that, or get out of here with that, or whatever. But they go to the kids, to our babies. They go to inundate their minds, to confuse them, so that, watch this, they'll grow up not knowing who they are. And here the parents is just saying it's okay. It ain't okay. You know your child. You know what you had. I don't need nobody influencing my kid with nothing wrong. Man, I'm working hard as heck to influence my kid with righteousness, to do the right thing, to be something in life. And then here you come. You don't want them to walk to school with the Bible. You don't want them praying in school, but you want my child to be introduced, watch this, to a drag queen story time. Well, how come we can't use that time then? Okay, here's the thing. Now, for people who are all about equality, if you allow the school to have an hour of drag queen story time, then allow the school to have Bible study. Okay, equality. But here's the thing. Ain't nobody talking. Who's talking? Nobody's talking. We just accept what they throw at us. We accept what the world says. We accept what the world does with no pushback. We trust in the world more than we trust in God. We don't want to confront. We don't want to upset. We just want to status quo. We want to be easygoing. No, God was confrontational. The Lord that we serve was confrontational. The Lord that we serve rebuked. The Lord that we serve stood on the word because he was the word. And yet we are co-laborers with him. We are followers of him. And here all we do is offer up excuses. No. That's what I'm saying tonight. No. I'm saying no to it all. No. No more compromise. Wrong is wrong. No more compromise. Don't come to me trying to convince me that it's okay now because we in 2023. No, wrong was wrong in centuries ago, and wrong is wrong today. Yeah, it's gonna always be wrong, and right gonna always be right. No, we're not gonna be no in between. Well, it's okay. People this and that. Oh, people this and that. No, it ain't okay. If you influencing the minds of my child, watch this, to be confused, it ain't okay. That's child abuse. So what I'm saying, they might well lock me up for neglect. They might well pull my kid from me. If I'm letting my kid go out here and rob and do things and on all kind of stuff, what they want to do, then they might as well come get me and lock me up. Because watch this, I'm a no good parent. That's what they need to do. Y'all ready for me tonight? I hope so. All right, so now watch this. They will not permit the Bible in classrooms, but they let drag queen story time go on. Why? Because the Bible changes the hearts and minds of people. The reason why they don't want the Bible, the reason why they don't want prayer is because they know prayer changes things. They know the Bible changes the mind and the heart from the inside out. So they don't want anything that's going to change the life for the better or make the person smarter or wiser. What they want to do is keep the people confused. And who is the author of confusion? The devil. He's the author of confusion. Chaos. That's what he brings. God brings peace. Remember that, beloved. God brings peace. My second point, exhortation. So now the first one says that if it seems evil for you to serve the Lord, then the second point is exhortation. He tells them now to do what? Choose you this day whom you will serve. Choose today whom you will serve. In exhorting the people to serve the Lord, Joshua points out that it is a matter of choice, not convenience. You do not serve the Lord and live for him accidentally or because there is nothing else to do. You serve him by choice. And it is a life and a death choice that will affect you for all eternity. How are you choosing? How are you leading your children to choose? How is your house choosing? Or is it all choosing for you? Do you choose tonight to serve the Most High God, the God who has met you in the midnight hour, the God who has supplied all your needs according to his riches and glory, the God who has made a way out of no way, the God who has met your every need, the God who has healed your body? I'm asking you, do you choose to serve that God? Or are you still on the fence? Are you still trying to figure out who you want to serve? Or are you still trying to be safe and be cool with everybody? No, some people just gonna have to dislike you. Some people just gonna have to dislike you, beloved, if you're gonna be a soldier in the Lord's army. Believe that. Let's look at our third and our final point. Example. Not only should we not come with excuses, but we should be exhorters. And thirdly, we should be an example. He says, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua was not just an exhorter, but he was also an example. He led his home in spiritual matters. Oftentimes it's just the children of the mother and the children who show up at church while the man stays at home. Every man should admire Joshua and be that example in the home, taking their family to church, a place where they can become spiritually connected and fed. Choose who you will serve between the one true God or false gods. After giving the people their options, Joshua immediately makes known his choice. He says, as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. Yeah, we're going to serve the Lord. How can we apply Joshua 24:15 to our lives today? In my closing, Ecclesiastes 1:19 reminds us that nothing new is under the sun. However, each new generation progresses to more innovations and greater efficiencies. New ideas and easier ways of life are implemented daily. As society develops and becomes more efficient and more intellectual, the faithfulness and goodness of God can fade from the people's minds. Let me say that again. As society develops and become more efficient, more intellectual, the faithfulness and goodness of God can fade from the people's minds. We can look at all that we've attained. We can look at all that we're doing. We can look at how great our name has become. We can look at how often people lift us up and exhort us as if we're all that in a bag of chips. And all of a sudden, God will begin to fade from our hearts and our minds. Some will never know what it was like to have a desperate need that only God could feel and then watch him do it. You remember the time when you was the most hungry, and I ain't talking about hungry for food, but hungry for something different, hungry for a change of direction, hungry for a word, hungry for a new opportunity, hungry. And it was God who not only did he fulfill your hunger, watch this, you watch God do it. Even as the world continues to change and develop, every person is still faced with the option of choosing the one true God or serving others. People have been known to choose power, wealth, popularity, and other things as their gods. That's just the reality. Choosing Jesus is more than claiming to be a certain religion, hearing a sermon, singing from a songbook, and feeling good about heaven. It is choosing to no longer be bound by sin. That's the key, beloved. When you look at every young person that's out here breaking laws, they're actually committing sins. And there's only one person who breaks the bondage of sin, and that is Jesus Christ. Again, I ask you, who's talking? Every home ought to be talking instead of crying. Every home ought to be talking instead of complaining. Every home ought to be leading, watch this, instead of following. Every home ought to be setting the tone, setting the temperature, so that, watch this, you can stand like Joshua with conviction and say, for me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. And watch this. And the moment that the kids feel like they grown and ready to do it on their own, and they don't want to acquiesce to the rules of this house, then guess what? It's time for you to give them the biggest hug that you've ever given them in life, and let them know you'll be praying for them. Because at the end of the day, either you gonna watch this run the ship, or you gonna let your ship be disrupted. That's it. I don't know about you, but I don't want my house to have an out of order sign on it. I want my house to be a representation of who the Christ I serve is. When people come into my home, I want them to feel the very presence of God. In fact, when evil shows up at my door, I want it to flee, because there's so much presence of God in my home. If a person coming around my house trying to do something he ain't got no business, I want him to become so irritated and agitated that he can't sit still, he can't stay, he got to move out, because the house is protected by the presence of God. And all of that comes from the commitment and the conviction that says, for me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. For me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. We not playing with it. For me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. Because I know from where we come from, I know who has our back, I know who's opening up the doors, I know who's blessing us beyond our own imagination, I know who's supplying all our needs. So for me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. One of the things I always said, my mama didn't raise no food. And I'm telling you, I know right when it's right, I know wrong when it's wrong. So for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. You got that. The starting point for every person is to apply Joshua 24:15 to their lives, beginning with making an intentional, concentrated choice to choose God over any and every other option. The biggest battle that we have to deal with in this world is what the world is selling. The world is selling something, and I'm talking about they buying it. The world is selling it, and the people are buying it. They are buying it. Oh, ain't no way in the world. Ain't no way in the world my 6-year-old child gonna come home and tell me they feel like another sex, and then we gonna go straight to the doctor and start getting mutilations and all of that. What? Your little 6-year-old behind about to sit down? Yeah, you ain't about to come home and tell me what you think you feel like. No, I'm about to tell you y'all seen that movie? Y'all seen that movie Roots? Every black family need to go back to watch that movie Roots and see what he did. His father holded Kunta up what did he do? He dedicated him back to the Lord. He held him up. He told him who he was. And at that moment, that's why it was so hard for Kunta to accept anything else for his life. That's why they kept beating him mercifully, because he remembered and he knew what his dad had told him. His dad had already told him who he was. How you gonna give me another name when I know who I am? See, y'all gotta catch that. Y'all gotta catch that. And what the world wanna do is it wanna break you. It want to strip you. It want to take you from your original and make you something that you will be sorry for later. No, 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 no. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. Choosing to live for Christ entails a home that is infiltrated and influenced by the Spirit of God. Who's talking? Is God in your home talking? Is God talking to you in the morning? Is God talking to you in the noontime? Is God talking to you in the nighttime? Is God's voice prevalent in your home? Who's talking? Are you being influenced by the presence of God? It is a home that dwells on the goodness and teachings of God. It is a home of gratitude toward the Lord. At home, a home that serves the Lord involves a family that worships the true God. Those in the home that are ahead of the home, the family leads the others to do what? Know God. Listen, beloved, who's talking? I hope that this was enough for you to really just ponder on and start thinking about it and searching for your voice. Where is your voice when it comes to your grandkids, so it's like, man, my grandfather and them, man, they my grandmother and them, they never said the crazy dumb stuff that I'm hearing that these young kids are. None of that stuff happened. It didn't happen. And I'm glad. I thank more and more. I thank God more and more for the family that I was born to. The family of principle. My family had principles. They knew who they were. They weren't confused. They didn't go with every new thing that was coming about. No, man, I thank God today for my family, my mom, my dad, and what they instilled in me. And guess what? If I hadn't had that, yeah, who knows? Maybe I would be walking around here named Nate instead of Nate. Maybe I'd be Nate right now, Nate Simpson. Yeah, but guess what? Because I had my parents and my family and my father and my grandfathers and my uncles and my mother and my aunties, and I had my brothers and my sister, I know who I am. And guess what, beloved? We got to make sure. We all going to steer wrong. We all going to get out there. But here's the thing. You will come back to truth. People always make their way back to truth. But if you don't give them no truth, they'll never have nothing to come back to. Listen, I love each and every one of you tonight. I'm praying for all of you, the sick and shut in, those of you who are recovering from surgeries, who are recovering. I'm praying God's best. Those of you who are incurring family trauma right now, I'm praying for you. You guys know who you are. I don't have to mention your names, you know. And so just know I'm covering you in prayer. I'm believing that God would show up and show out, man, and be the God that he is. I'm talking the God of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. So I'm praying that God would grant each and every one of you everything you need. And that person right now who is struggling with being that impactful person, that influencer, who's letting their kids take over, kids running rapid. In fact, maybe, you know, that child is one step from being that person going out there to take somebody's car and steal something from somebody. I'm praying now that you would be the one doing the talking. I'm praying now that God would give you the boldness and the courage to confront what's wrong. Confront, not endorse it, but confront it. I'm praying for each and every one of you. Call a spade a spade. Yeah, if it's a spade, it's a spade. Yeah, we justify too much. We cannot justify sin. Sin is sin. Yeah, it is wrong. I'm a pastor, and if I'm in sin, I want my pastor to rebuke me. Yeah, don't sit here and say, oh, Nate, oh, man, you know, it happened. No, I need you to remind me who I am. I need you to tell me that, no, I'm better than this. This is not what I'm called to. And we've gotten to a place now to where we everybody's so feely. It's good to have feelings, but my God, we super sensitive. And it's a trick of the enemy to keep you so sensitive that won't nobody say nothing to you. And as long as won't nobody say nothing to you, you'll never get better. You'll never become stronger. You'll never become wiser. And you don't even realize that you're just sinking deeper and deeper in your sin. And so I'm saying to you tonight, who's talking? If it seems evil, if, in other words, if you think that there's some other God that can do better than the God who has done all that he's done in your life, that's what he's saying basically. Yeah, he said he's not confused. For me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord. So let's make it do what it do. I love each and every one of you, and I know God has given each and every one of you his promise. And so listen, my job is to help you get to that promise. That's what Moses' job was. Get the people to the promise. And he let the people get under his skin where he messed up. He couldn't get in, but that's all right. God had a ram in the bush. He raised up Joshua. Joshua took the people in. What was Joshua's job to do? Now, once they got in, was to remind them. Y'all getting a little too honorary. Y'all getting a little too arrogant. Y'all getting a little too cocky. Remember, yeah, we are here enjoying this life because of God. And no one needs to forget it. Let's keep worshiping. Let's keep praising. Let's keep thanking him. Let's keep giving. Let's keep blessing. That's what God wants us to do. All right, y'all? Come on, join me tonight by giving. How can you give tonight? Each and every one of you, listen, if you can, a $25 seed tonight, or sow the biggest seed you can, or simply get your, if you want to tithe tonight, you can go ahead and do that tonight. And you can tithe by going to 77977. That's using your smartphone, and just texting 77977, putting forgiving in the subject box. You can also use the Cash App, or if you want to mail your seed in, you can use the P.O. Box information. Anytime you want to give, you can do that by grabbing your phone and texting. Or if you want to know anytime when to give, you can go to our forgivingchurch.org, go to our website, and follow the giving tab, and all the steps and the ways you can give is right there. And so again, meet me this Sunday at 10 o'clock, man, because we're going to go deeper into this. And we'll talk more about this on this Sunday. But I think, man, that this word here is what this world needs. We are in that place. Every time I turn on the news, I don't want to see it no more. I'm tired. I'm tired. Division, it's just crazy. And it's too much acceptance, no challenge. And so no, it's time. Come on, y'all. Let's do what we've been called to do. And God will have our back every step of the way. I promise you. Listen, let's get ready. One of the things I want to share with you, and I'll talk more about this on Sunday. We are having our Easter resurrection service on April 9th. I'm thinking about starting that service 15 minutes earlier, starting that service at 9:45 instead of 10 o'clock. So I can have praise and worship. I got a guest psalmist that'll be coming in. And so we'll have that person go from 9:45 to 9:15, to 10:15. And then we'll probably get up and preach around 10:30, something like that. But I'll give you more details on that as we come. But I'm probably going to move that Sunday service that day to 9:45. And that'll give me the opportunity to do everything I need to do for service. Yep. So love you guys. Praying for you guys. Continue to pray for me. Meet me this Sunday at 10 o'clock. Spread the word. Love you guys. Miss you too. We'll see you in a couple of days.